Hi, Dave, and hi to our viewers. So I decided to start recording some of these fantastic conversations that I have been having the last few months. And Dave, you and I have had several fabulous conversations. So I just wanted to capture some of that uh, thinking that you and I have been brainstorming together. And so, welcome to the first recording. Why don't you take a second to introduce yourself to the folks who are watching?
Yeah, I thank you very much, Karen. Nice to meet everyone. I've been in the HR landscape my entire career. Started for the first decade leading delivery teams, working in recruiting. I headed talent, for example, at Gartner. Then I left and spent 7 years looking at the global accounts teams at LinkedIn. And I've been in HR tech ever since and really have been closely aligned to the CHRO and helping him and her really drive their human capital strategy, specifically around technology.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And I am Karen Stevens. I am a senior HR leader. I have deep experience in talent strategy, organizational transformation. I am a geek about the future of work, especially thinking about in this kind of new age that we're in, where people and AI meet.
Yeah.
I've always been very excited about how setting people up to thrive in the workplace helps meet business goals. I'm always been very interested in that intersection and have sort of spent my career being passionate about that. Really, I get excited about building cultures and capabilities that drive growth and create meaningful employee experiences and great business growth as well. And I think AI is, as we all know, going to be a game changer. But I also think, as you and I have talked about,
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of misconceptions out there right now, and I think that's something I want to continue to talk about. So, Dave, why don't you take a few minutes and talk a little bit about the work that you're doing today?
Yeah. I think that the key theme, like if I could start with that, is I realize that there's just in the world world of work today, there's just so much complexity at the moment. It's always been a very complex space since I started in the late 90s, but particularly with automation and AI, there's so many choices, there's so much learning, and we're all overwhelmed. In fact, I think all of us, underneath are concerned about what is this going to do? What is this going to mean for me and my children down the line? And how do we think about and plan for it? So it's a very human thing to figure out how do we react to this.
Mm-hmm.
And so that when I look then specifically through the lens of human capital technology, it's just adding complexity to complexity. So number one, I wanted to be committed to how can I help the HR community kind of distill sort of through the noise and really get to the bottom of the inherent goals and objectives essentially that they're trying to accomplish within their roles. So how do they better align what they do on a day-to-day basis with their executive team, their board, et cetera, and do so navigating this world of technology and AI, and it's incredibly difficult. So that's number one. I was very committed to that, and I'm very committed to that. Two, I'd say is, like all of us, we've seen a lot of organizations lay people off over the last few years, and to me, that's just evidence of poor planning. And so from my standpoint, and it's been a problem, organizations have laid off over time, but I feel like with technology, we're taking reactions and making decisions in a bubble oftentimes. And so I want to help companies get ahead of that by allowing them to better plan, looking specifically at how both people and technology interact in the workplace. And so what that means to me, Karen, is historically you've had teams of what are called industrial organizational psychologists, and they go in and they help businesses really understand what are the needs of in a particular role, and how do you map those needs within an organization and essentially create a job profile or a job description. That's historically been done looking at what's known as the KSAs, knowledge, skills, and abilities of people, and mapping that out to the needs of an organization. And from my standpoint, we need to take that to a new level. We need to not only look at that, but also we need to look at what are the capabilities of technology, both in the marketplace today, but also where technology is going in the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months to think about what we need from a human capital standpoint. So
Yeah.
zooming out, I feel like there needs to be consideration of human and tech as it relates
Yep.
to organizational planning. And that's kind of why I started Vendy, and we can get into what we're doing, but that's sort of the backstory.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I really think that what companies are struggling with right now, it's not like the digital transformation of yesteryear, right?
Oh,
It's really about talent orchestration.
yeah.
And I think a lot of fear mongering right now that AI is going to take all the jobs. And I don't think that is true. And I don't think there's a whole lot of evidence. I mean, you see a few companies here and there, like somebody's, saying, oh, we just laid off X number of people so that we can just implement AI, right? Or there's a lot of fear mongering around that. But I think that what really needs to happen is that we need to be looking at what can AI even do, right?
Yeah.
Like I think that there's a lot of, oh, AI is going to take your job. It can't take the whole job. It can take tasks. And so I think that really honing in on what is the work that needs to be done?
Mm-hmm.
How does that work get done today?
Yep.
What aspects of that job could be done by AI?
Yep.
And then really needing to discern, is it worth it? Is
Yep.
it worth the money, right?
Yep.
Because AI is expensive.
Yep.
And so really discerning, so work that needs to be done, how does it get done today? What tasks could be done by AI? Do we want to invest the money, and is the data there, right?
Yep.
Because your AI is only as good as your data. And then looking at how do we create that transformation. So with Vendy, do you feel like you help solve that problem?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think taking a step back, I
Yeah.
think the biggest problem we want to first ask ourselves is, what are we doing today? What does the current
Yeah.
state look like? And I've been talking to literally over 100 CHROs and executives over the last 6-7 months, and understanding, what's most important to them. How can I help them navigate sort of this future of work? And when you lean into AI and automation, there's a huge appetite to do things. But when I peel the onion and I start to unpack, hey, what are you doing today? What systems are you using? Are you getting ROI from your current processes? It's shocking to hear that most, if not almost every organization that I've spoken to has really lacked an understanding of end to end. How are they actually working through and accomplishing work today? What does the beginning and end look like? What systems are they moving in and out of and interacting with to accomplish a specific goal? There are some degrees of documentation and understanding but for the most part, it sits in people's heads. It varies from team to team and person to person. So the reality of it is, I've noticed most organizations want to invest in and automate with AI, but they don't know where to start. They don't even know what's working and what's happening today.
Right.
And that's a fundamental problem.
Right. And I think, it's been a fundamental problem. Um, even if you think about how hard it is to get people to write a job description,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
and so if it's hard to write a job description, how can you possibly ask AI to do a job, right? So
Yeah.
I think, yeah, it is a challenge that has always been difficult,
Yeah.
and now it is even more critical that we take the time to do it.
Yeah. The other thing, 100%. And then the other thing I've seen, Karen, is the fact that I think everyone's looking for that sort of dopamine hit or some degree of sort of acknowledgement that I've done something with automation and AI. They want to move forward.
Right.
Again, they don't know where to start. And so the reality of it is are you getting value today from what you currently have, your processes, your team, your stack? On the flip side, if we look at technology, AI, automation, things that are out there in the market, the other thing that I think most organizations are not asking, and is a critical question to ask, is the juice worth the squeeze?
Yeah.
So like we may be doing phenomenal work now, but is the time and effort just to automate and change worth doing that for maybe a limited impact? Or maybe that technology that you have is good for another 6 months. So why would you implement a new stack or a new change or a new process when, as we saw GPT-5 coming out last Friday, if a change is around the corner, maybe you're better off just waiting. But at the end of the day, you just need to know what your options are. And I think that's the other challenge. And the last piece I'll mention really quickly, Karen, is I think everyone, again, wants to sort of automate, introduce AI. But at the end of the day, again, is the juice worth the squeeze, number one? And then number two is there going to be a business impact? So like, are we automating for efficiency? Do we want to just cut costs? Or are we actually thinking about driving business impact and value? And I fear that most leaders today are just optimizing for savings and not necessarily thinking about what is it that I was hired for in the beginning and what best practices do I actually have to build for the organizational alignment.
Yeah. And you touched on something else that I've been thinking about a lot around, waiting, right? If something big is about to come out. But I think something big is going to be about to come out.
Yeah.
Always from now on, right?
Yep.
The pace of change is never slower than it is today.
Yeah.
And it's just getting faster and faster and faster.
Yeah.
And so if you wait, that is a tough question. I actually think that what we are going to have to figure out is how are we constantly able to absorb the next big change?
Sure.
How do we almost create like shocks in the system, right? So that the next big change that is easily absorbed, is easily implemented, because it is going to be coming so fast.
Yeah.
That almost needs to be like like you're just riding that wave, and every wave, as each wave comes, you're able to navigate it, right?
I mean, from our standpoint, I think we believe at Vendy, what we're building is we believe it's going to need to be an always on experience. You're going to always be optimizing for your people and human interaction in the workforce because technology is constantly changing. The availability of talent is constantly shifting as they learn new skills and have new experiences. So, a really good friend of mine led people analytics at Capital One, and they're known to be best in breed. And he had said to me, "We look at this once a quarter, maybe once a year for annual planning. We're not looking at this at a more frequent basis. Most organizations are not looking at this on a more frequent basis, and yet with technology moving so rapidly, you absolutely have to." And that's the other thing. Things are moving so regularly. The second thing is when I think about Vendy and any organization today, what I'm trying to build is a framework. And I'm trying to, it's not about I want to ship software solutions that are going to help my client. I want to help my HR executive partners think differently and be better prepared for the workforce. And I've been on AI for the last year, or actually for the last 6 years, but really day to day. And I have a bunch of key learnings, but one thing that I can tell you for a fact is not optimized today. And I'd say this is a bit of an understatement. It's the fact that AI doesn't know when it needs human judgment. We all talk about AI hallucinating, but at the end of the day, we know what's needed in work, and what's needed in work is the ability for the right human to come in at the right time and apply their human experience and lens and give that credibility of that decision and reinforce others and getting excited about and being committed to change. And today that doesn't exist. So when I think about it, the framework that I'm trying to build at Vendy is how do I help CHROs tap into humans at the right place and at the right time, but allow technology to do its thing when it's a rote process, it's a rinse and repeat kind of a thing. And we can all agree with that. But what frustrates me is when I see on LinkedIn and everyone's talking about AI and automation, how beneficial it's going to be for the world. And almost everyone to a T says, well, let the humans do the human things. But I've yet to see anyone describe what those things are. So for me, I want to figure out how do I build a framework so we optimize for those human things first and plan around tech to basically optimize and enable. And that's why I started with Vendy, which is, how do we figure out, A, what's actually happening to drive workflows today? How is work being done? How are people moving in and out of systems? Are those processes aligned to level 1 business goals or not? Is there opportunity to drive efficiency, automation, and enhancement? But most importantly, are we doing so by either better aligning to business goals or realigning to business goals in a way that's going to optimize for human judgment? to me, that's the future of any technology in AI, and that's what I'm trying to build. And I think that we've been so caught up with automation and AI efficiency that we feel like, okay, it's going to save us a lot of time and money. And then if you actually look at how businesses and people have spent their time with AI, only 1% of organizations consider themselves mature with AI. And frankly, ask yourself, what is AI? Most will say it's ChatGPT, it's Gen AI, it's building a little picture or creating a widget or
Right.
an email for my
People think of agentic AI, or they think of
yeah.
they like you said, creating an AI image or something like that. Agree. And I think that for the real business impact, there's much deeper machine learning and other
Yeah.
types of AI that will have a bigger impact than just agentic AI. Although I think agentic AI will have a huge impact. What I've heard it called like the super worker,
Yeah.
where you're getting 5-6 times as much productivity out of one person because they have certain agents doing certain things.
Yeah.
And I think that is probably, at least in the short term, the way we're headed. But I
Yeah.
agree with you that um, we haven't really solved yet
No.
for AI hallucinations, um, or even really like kind of circling back to where we started,
Yeah.
uh, making sure that we have good data, right? And you can't implement AI on top of mediocre data. You're going to get mediocre work and results.
Well,
So,
and how can you, and asking you, sort of with your CHRO and HR leadership hat on, like how can you think about psychological safety and security, not just for yourself, but your team and your company, when you don't know what you share with AI may or may not be shared publicly, or you don't have that confidence. So we lack the trust.
yeah,
By the
I
way,
think
that
that's huge.
I have a
Yeah.
question for you, if it's okay if I ask.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
one of the things that I've been doing over the last 6-7 months is asking HR leaders, like, if you could kind of summarize the one or two things your executives and your board and your C-suite is sort of mandating for the business. Like, if you could summarize, what is that kind of must-do, mission-critical thing that you've heard in your career? How would you summarize that today? Because for me, I've been on this journey of trying to, again, make sense of AI and automation with through the lens of HR and human capital. But I don't think I've asked you that question, so I'd love to get your personal perspective.
Well, it's interesting because I feel like the last couple of roles that I've been in, there's been a huge focus on this uh, cost cutting.
Yeah,
How do we spend less?
yeah,
And I do think that there has to be some sort of coming back from that, because um, businesses aren't just about cutting costs, right? They're about delivering value to the customers, no matter who your customers are. Uh, a business exists to deliver value to
yeah,
the people that are paying for
yeah,
value, right? And I think if you're constantly focused on cutting costs, which has been my experience, I would say, over the last few years, um, I think there's less positive impact for the customer.
yeah,
And so what I would love to see companies start thinking about, and for boards and CEOs to start asking for, is how do we create more value without having to necessarily hire a lot more people?
sure.
How can we slow down hiring? So
Mhm.
not cutting people necessarily, but how do we slow down hiring while exponentially magnifying the value we're delivering to customers? I think that could be the true impact of AI, is that you can increase the value you're providing without having to cut humans,
Yep.
but without having to hire a lot more. Like, how can you be a small, impactful organization, um, focused on delivering value. I think that's so that is what I would like to hear.
By the way, I love that, and I'll tell you why. Not only do I think I agree with that, but the most strategic leaders that I've spoken to over the last few weeks have said almost the exact same thing. We don't want to cut people. We just want to slow things down.
Yeah.
We want to get to a point where we can actually have a way to plan effectively, and then we can accelerate based on alignment to those business goals.
Yeah.
And so that's great. I would say N for me, which is 1 point. I'd say with people, the same thing with tech. So let's slow down buying tech until we've actually made sure that we understand what we're doing today. We understand rather what we're doing today, and we understand how the ROI from what we're getting from that investment, and we know that that process is aligned to a business goal. Yeah. I would say the same thing for tech.
I would agree with that as well, and I would say, especially when it comes to AI tech, like really discerning where, as a company, where do we want to start? Where do we want to, because let's not just like blanket start implementing AI across the board. Let's be really strategic. We know we have great data in this part of the company. We know that AI could increase efficiency by X%, right? So that's a good place to start. Whereas over here in this other part of the company, we don't have great data.
Yeah.
Or even if we do have great data, the efficiency gains we're going to get are negligible. So why would we do it, right? So I think really being strategic about where and why, and thinking through what is the end game.
Yeah. One of the things that I just want to quickly touch on with Bendy.
Yeah, please.
At 100,000 foot, if you want to kind of take back, what are the things that I want to help HR leaders do? So I talked about planning. What I'd like for a CHR or HR executive to have is a series of levers that they can pull when the business needs it. So today, if I have to kind of look at, hey, I want to create a different business strategy, or I want to change my tech stack, or our organizational go-to-market is so different that I have to hire a completely new category of people, or I have to look at different markets to hire within. You name the challenge. These are profound challenges for a business HR leader to be able to tackle. And historically, we're at sort of the whim of a board, and we're at the whim of the business climate changing. And so we'll go to an Accenture, McKinsey, or Deloitte, and we'll wait a quarter and spend $250,000, and we'll get a glossy deck back that's going to say, here's how you do it, go and run with it. But things are moving so fast today, you can't wait that long, and we don't have the budgets anymore for that. So I would love for an HR executive team to have those levers to basically, how do you blueprint what could work look like? Scenario A, scenario B, scenario C. And when and if my CEO says go, I can pull the lever and I can go. That's what I want them. So I want them to be able to effectively plan. Let me give you an example, Karen. So I'm working with an organization today, and they wanted to really invest in scheduling and a few other areas of automation within their HR stack. And it's a sub component of their larger goals and objectives, but it's available. And we mapped this out with Vendy, and we've identified a sort of a workflow for a client, and we were really excited. And so we kind of pulled that lever, and it's ready to go. Well, guess what? On Friday, ChatGPT 5 just came out, and there are new capabilities that eliminated 90% of what we were simulating. Well, guess what? Now we have a better solution, but if I had gone forward historically, or if I had implemented that with a consulting firm, I would have spent a lot of time and money and wasted that, only to learn that the technology has changed. In our world, we want to be able to scenario so that, okay, if that change happens in GPT, I've got another scenario ready to pull. So I'm prepared. And I think that's a huge difference.
There's that pivoting on a dime, right?
Yeah.
Pivot, as I said before, I think we need to be ready to absorb change on a daily basis. Things are going to change faster and faster and faster. So Dave, we could probably talk for another hour, but it's been 25 minutes. So I think we should wrap up this very first video, but I hope that we can do this again, because I always enjoy talking to you. And I think that other people would benefit from hearing us bounce ideas off of each other.
Awesome. And I just make one comment to say that I want to hear from anyone and everyone. I literally feel like we have to crowdsource our way through these challenges here as the human race. This is the biggest challenge we've dealt with since the first industrial revolution. And so if anyone who's listening to this is excited or inspired, reach out to either Karen or me. We'd love to get some time with you.
Yeah, I think that's a great invitation. I would invite people. We're going to post this on YouTube and LinkedIn, so I would invite people to comment or as Dave said, reach out to us so we can talk further.
Cool.
Well, Dave, thank you so much
Thank you.
for this conversation.
Thanks, Karen. Have a great day. Bye,
You
everyone.
too.
Bye.